All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Devil Dinosaur review. Today we're going to inspect what Devil Dinosaur can do so far with the information we have. It's time to get ahead of the game. Let's get into it. All right, here's the trailer. Vanguard, Devil Dinosaur. Seems pretty big so far. All right, so instantly, we have a red health bar above Star-Lord and Groot. So I'm assuming that is bleed. That's the new bleed effect that I heard about. Also, bottom right, four abilities with a Q. He has a infinite primary. So I am also assuming that would be just a chomp attack, just a regular base chomp attack. You see, he has 850 base health here, and the beam, from what I know, seems to be an ability kind of like what draws similarities to that? Kind of like it's a bar ability, kind of like MO, where it just goes down, something like that. So you see the tick effect on the crosshair. That's because of the bleed. All right, let's go back like 5 seconds. All right, he attacks with his tail and also with his primary. So it's chomp, tail attack, chomp. Maybe that's the melee, maybe that's the primary. We don't know so far, but that is just the bleed. He does a little bit. He does a little bit over Thor hammer damage, I'd say, like right in between Thor hammer damage and Thing haymaker punch. So something in between that. All right, there's the beam. So we can see the beam grounds flyers so far. It also inflicts bleed, and it does a decent amount of damage, kind of like Iron Man Unibeam damage or Ultron Unibeam damage, with his team up. So it's something like that. That draws similarities. Okay, that is also his shift attack, 10-second cooldown we see. So I'm assuming that lets you lunge at enemies and also gives you a movement speed boost to lunge at enemies. And you can also grab them on lunge. You see his beam has a bar. This is his beam attack. Those little spikes on the crosshair indicates bleed or a status effect. See her ticking with health. All right, he looks up. All right, that is his shift ability. Once again, you see he grabs them, he sees them, drags them. Okay, he can throw to wherever he's pointed at with the crosshair. And he used his F attack, his chomp. We can go back there and see it again. All right, so his chomp seems to give over health. I'm sure we'll see that more in the trailer, so I'm not going to go back. But every single chomp with his enhanced E, or is that F? That's F. It seems to give over health with each bite. All right, that is his E. That's his bubble move. This seems to be about 300 defense to 200, maybe. Maybe it's 400 shield. Not sure. All right, he uses his shift there, drags them, and throws the Thor. That's the bleed effect. Okay. That's the overhealth from the chomp. The overhealth seems to be 1,000 plus. Let's go back and look at it more. I'm sure we won't see the cap to the chomp overhealth because I'm sure there'll be insane combos that you can do with it. But so far, the max that we've seen seems to be 1,000 using his F. Okay. You see, he procs the F, goes all the way up to 1,000 with these chomp of overhealth. Keep in mind, it is decaying overhealth. And I believe I saw 1,200 there, or a little bit over 1,100. So that's interesting. And so it gives him, once again, decaying overhealth. It's not regular overhealth that just stays there with you. He blocks it with the shield. Nice. All right, and then he lunges in with his shift. And that seems to be the full extent of the Devil's Dinosaur base ability gameplay. Also, before we look at the ult, one thing to keep noted is that he seems to get overhealth just from existing. Now, I'm not sure if this is a passive or if this is a out of battle passive or if this is a in battle passive, like you're in battle for a certain amount of time, or you're out of battle for a certain amount of time, and you get passive shield from that. I'm not sure if this is either or, but that is something to note, and that is very interesting. All right, let's resume. His ultimate seems to be on a 10-second cooldown. Let's go back. I saw something with the stomp there. Okay, so that we can slow it down for you guys, but that looks like to be a projectile. The roar looked to be like a projectile. That looks very interesting. So let's go back a little. Let's slow it down for you guys. Yeah, okay, that roar is a projectile for sure, for sure. That's a projectile. Okay, so it seems to proc bleed on projectile hit. That is also interesting. The projectile procs bleed. I'm not sure if it does anything else, but from what we've seen, it procs bleed. He also passively stomps on the floor, destroys buildings. Okay, and the stomps that he uses in his ult passively seem to enable displacement. It launches the enemy up briefly. I think that's a result of what we just seen there. We can look at it in the replay. Okay, he attacks them. Stomps, they jump up briefly. And then when they die, they also jump up. So that also is you know, a key signifier. Once again, we see the projectile roar. Okay, he grabs, throws Hawk off, stomps. Okay, base gameplay, he's just using all his abilities. And that seems to be the full extent of Devil Dinosaur. I believe that's it. This is his little outro, and that is the end of the Rivals trailer. Pretty interesting. All right, guys, let me know if that was helpful or if that was informative. Thank you for watching, and that is the full extent of the Devil Dinosaur analysis video.